Welcome to the Know Your Ship podcast, presented by eHub. I'm your host, Frank Dolce. Erhan, welcome to eHub. We really appreciate your time. We appreciate you coming out here to be on the podcast all the way from Chicago.
Thanks for having me, actually.
Yeah.
This is
absolutely.
Such great people. I met great people. Great time. Thanks, guys.
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad to hear that. Well, we couldn't be more excited to hear learn more about you and about your company and how it started and how you created it. I think about what you've accomplished and what you've done, and for a guy like me, it's very impressive. I think for a lot of people, it's very impressive. So I'm really looking forward to digging into how you started that, the concept, where it came from. And of course, that is Logiwa. We don't call it a WMS, though, correct?
Fulfillment management system.
Fulfillment management system. We'll talk about that as we go on. But I think I'd like to start maybe in the beginning, because you're not from the United States of America. You grew up in Turkey.
Yes, I am originally from Turkey.
Yeah.
I think they call it Turkey now.
Yes, in the Olympics, I noticed that. They started calling, say that again, Turkey?
We call it Turkey.
Yeah.
Turkey.
Yes. And is that the original? Is that how that was originally the name?
Yes.
And then did we take it and turn it into Turkey, Americans?
I think British.
Yeah, let's do
Not
that.
sure.
Let's learn on the British. Let's do that.
Not sure.
British. Yeah, okay. So you grew up in Turkey.
Yes.
And you grew up in a small town near the border of Ukraine?
Across Ukraine, let's say.
Across.
Between Ukraine and my hometown, there is the Black Sea.
Oh, got it. Okay. And in that small town, and by the way, you're an engineer.
Yes.
By trade.
I'm an industrial engineer.
Okay. So in that small town, was that something that you grew up interested in becoming an engineer? Is that something your family did? How did this start from you, for you from childhood?
So, as you said, my hometown, actually, let's say a city, small city, with that time it was, I guess, 50,000 people around. And to be honest, from my wider family, I haven't seen any engineer. So I was the first one. Even I was the first one, most probably making it to the university. Even I remember from our neighborhood, there were two guys, and everyone was pointing out those two guys which graduated from college, and we were all talking about those two guys. So, yeah. So I am the first engineer, actually.
So were those two guys inspiration for you to maybe go to college? And
more for my mom, not for me.
Yes. So what is the family background like? Was there a family occupation or something that your family did growing up?
My parents are ordinary people, actually. My father is he used to do copper. They're like ordinary people. My mother was working for the government, so just ordinary people. My family is ordinary family as well.
Yes. So is that something like we would call middle class in the United States? Middle class families or working class kind of family?
Working class, middle class.
Yeah.
I mean, we were not desperate, but we were not very wealthy as well.
Right.
We were just enough for ourselves.
Yeah. And in that area, what did it like? Was the thought of going to college? Because in the United States, it seems like it's everybody. I mean, it's kind of a natural progression. You go to grade school, you go to, high school. Everybody kind of thinks about going to college. It's just a natural thing. Was that the case where you grew up as well, or was that extraordinary to end up in college or university?
Those years, it was a little bit rare, but my mom still is very passionate about it. So she was really pushing me for a college. But before college, it started with high school.
Mm-hmm.
Because in Turkey, if you want to go a good high school, you have to pass a national exam. Like
Oh.
maybe you have similar here as well.
Sure.
So somehow I qualified for a school, but high school, but it was far away from my hometown, like in the
Oh.
capital city. And I really didn't want to go there. So luckily that year, they opened up a high school in my hometown.
Mm.
And we were basically the first graduates from that high school, which helped me a lot during my life because we were the first. Everyone was looking for our success. And the first, like classrooms, the first settlement was in a military base, actually. There was no school at all. They built the school 2 years after we started.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was a very, how can I say, bad student in the high school. I was ranked really bottom 5 or something like that in my high school. But then I made it up to university.
Mm-hmm.
And when I graduated from university, I was ranked like
In the top.
top 3. Yeah. So it was a big shift for me. Like in high school, I was not really a good student because I didn't like the education system.
Mm-hmm.
But in the university, it changed entirely. And then I think most of my cousins are now graduated from the college, like
Oh.
university.
Yeah. So what was the change for you in terms of your academics? It didn't resonate in high school, but then you got to university and it shifted. Why did that change?
Man, my son is listening as well, but in the high school, I just wanted to enjoy life because like you're never gonna be a teenager again, right?
Mhm.
So I just like, and I was questioning a lot, and at that time, the education system was not really answering your questions, more like expecting you to do rehearsals and everything, and I didn't really like it. And I even say this to my son as well: just enjoy your life. But then, at some point, you have to return back to the academic world and do it. And I did it in the university. Most of my friends did the other way. They were very hard worker in the high school, then
And went to university
Yes.
and then started to.
as parties, everything.
Mhm.
So I was the other way. I don't know why.
That's
but
interesting.
yeah.
What were like when you say you were questioning? What were the things that you were questioning in high school about, like what you wanted to do when you got older, or?
No, it's more like when someone. It is still same, by the way. When someone tried to teach me something, I need to understand the use case and why. Otherwise, you cannot expect me to like just make a rehearsal
Mm-hmm.
and remember things. You have to explain me the reason why and what is the use case.
Mm.
And those time, our education system was not good at that. They were like, "Hey, shut up, just learn it."
This is it, and you learn this, and don't ask questions about it.
Yeah. And when I started university, I just found the library, and I was there learning myself a lot.
Mm.
So then it helped a lot because I started questioning things and try to understand the real use case. Otherwise, it's really tough to teach me something. Even today.
Yes.
Yeah. Even if a customer asks, "Hey, I need this," I ask like, "What is the use case? Why do you need that?"
Yeah. Well, don't you find that helpful, especially now, to understand why the customer might be making that request so that you can build it correctly or manage the solution correctly?
Of course, it is very helpful, but a little bit difficult as well. Because like, imagine you are with your friends or whatever, you always question why.
Yeah.
It's tough as well.
And then, yeah.
But it
and-
helps with the business life because then you start thinking of the reason, use case of everything, and you find the right solution. Maybe the solution that the customer or someone is asking is not the right thing. Maybe the use case, you have a better solution, right?
Mhm.
So this is the questioning part of me.
Yes. So is that, and which university, where did you attend university?
It's a university in Turkey called Uludağ, not a very popular one.
Mm-hmm. And where is that located?
Another big city called Bursa. I think it is the 4th or 5th big city
Largest
in Turkey.
Got it. Okay. So at the university, is this when you started to become interested in engineering?
No, in Turkey the system is a little bit different. So I selected being an industrial engineer before starting to the university.
Oh.
So you have to make that at least when I was a student, you had to make that decision while entering. You select industrial engineering and you qualify for it, right?
Oh, so from high school. So
Yeah.
high school
No,
after high school
the exam. You just enter an exam,
got
and based
it.
on your score, you pick a department, right?
And then you
Industrial
go
engineering.
immediately and start studying.
Yeah.
And was that the right choice?
Yes. I would do it again.
You would.
Yeah.
Because I was going to ask you at some point during this podcast, we'll stop and I'll ask you 3 random questions that may not be related to engineering or Logiwa or anything else or your hometown.
Scary.
And that was actually one of the questions I was going to ask. If you could do anything else, what would that be? But maybe you wouldn't have decided to do anything else.
I would be an industrial engineer anyways. I really try to be a basketball player, but I am not a big guy, you know. It was tough. So
Yes, I know how that goes.
yeah, I ended up being an engineer.
So were you fairly athletic growing up? Did you play a lot of sports?
Yep, very much.
And the sports in Turkey, what basketball? We talked about volleyball. What else were you involved? And
Soccer,
of
basketball,
course.
volleyball. But I used to play basketball a lot in high school. I mean, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I couldn't be academically successful in high school because I was playing
It's too much basketball.
basketball, yeah. But then I realized, hey, I am not big enough, and I'm just from a small town.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Well, I know you say that you're just from a small town, but currently, we were talking about this in the NBA. From your small town, there's a star
yes.
in the NBA.
Yeah.
And his name is.
Alperen Şengün.
Yeah.
He's from my hometown actually.
Isn't that amazing? And he's doing amazingly well.
Yeah.
In the NBA right now. I
He's
think
a-
he's averaging like 21 points a game.
Yes, he's a young star. 21 points, 9 rebounds, maybe 4
4 assists.
Yeah,
Wow.
very, very good stats for a young player.
No kidding.
I think he's 22 years old or something.
That's awesome. Well, that's got to be fun for the town to have him come out of there. 6'11" center in the NBA. That's fantastic. Okay, so you're studying. You're in the industrial. What I would say the industrial engineering program, I guess, at university. That's what you're studying to be. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And so what path were you heading down as in that program? What did you want to do with your life as an industrial engineer? Or did you always say, well, I'm going to be in the shipping and logistics world?
No. So the thing is, I guess it was year 2.
Mm-hmm.
I introduced myself to computer, right? The software programming. And we were, I guess, coding Turbo Pascal something, 5.0, like very old technology. But the industrial engineering helped me to understand the business. But I decided to build my own company, own product, whatever you call it. And in order to do that, as I said, my family is an ordinary family. I am from a small city.
Mm-hmm.
And there were no ton of investors those days.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought, how can I build a business? And I decided to focus on software because with a laptop or with a computer and your brain, you can build a product and you can build a company.
Mm.
That's where I started focusing on software development and started interesting the software development part.
Got you. Did you work with anybody, or were you building this by yourself?
So first, after I graduated from the university, of course, there were a lot of offers from very big corporates, and I said, no, I'm not gonna stay 20 years to become something. I need to find a small software company to learn business.
Mm-hmm.
So I really started with a very small company, like 4 people that time, 4 headcount, but they were representing a international ERP system, right? A big international system, but small operation in Turkey. So I started with them to learn business software, how to develop it, how to maintain it, etc. That's how I ended up in software.
So were you at that point with that company? Were you an engineer? Were you in sales? Or did you have several different roles with that company?
I started as an implementation consultant, but this is 1997, I guess, like very early years. I started as an implementation consultant, but at some point we were traveling and we were doing implementation in other cities. And at some point I couldn't reach out to developers who were in Istanbul. And I started, hey, I'm going to do my...
Necessity made you.
Like, you know, I am in front of the customers and they ask, they request. So I started coding to just, satisfy the customers and like make them happy.
Yeah. And when you were traveling, were you traveling throughout Turkey or were you traveling on a broader scale?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, Turkey, even I have been in Nigeria, South Africa, many other countries, but mainly Turkey. And those days, I don't know if you remember, but 1997 in Turkey, I was carrying my server, my PC, my monitor in my trunk. Like even the server, because there was no proper internet. So you have to like install the server when you are going a demo or a customer visit. You have to carry all your stuff with you, right?
Oh my gosh. And you know, it's interesting you're traveling so much and so broadly. Was there any language barrier or were you working with people who kind of spoke a common, was it were you speaking English or were you speaking something else?
In Turkey, it's always Turkish. But if you go other countries, of course, it's English, right?
English.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
English is very common in the business. Even in Turkey, you can do an implementation in English.
In English. Interesting. Okay, so you're an implementation specialist. How long were you with this company?
Oh, I stayed maybe 3 or 4 years. Then I become a partner. I was like, things happen. And at some point, I was holding 25% of the Turkey office. Yeah, in 4 years or 5 years. I was working really hard and like things happen and just we ended up four co-founders. We ended up creating a new company and we were representing the ERP company, 25% of that company. And I stayed 1 year and I made my first exit. I sold my shares to the global headquarters and I decided to build my own business.
Okay, and is that the beginning of Logiwa?
Yes. I mean, it let's say it is the beginning of logistics and supply chain.
Okay.
Not Logiwa. Logiwa is different.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're only, at this point, you're only 5 or 6 years out of university? And now you've started your own software. And what was that software that you started? What was the basis of that? What was it built to do?
It was not a software actually. I started a company and I decided to bring top tier supply chain management solutions to Turkey. Actually, those days it was not supply chain, it was logistics. So I decided to bring top tier logistics solutions to Turkey because I had to learn the business, right? So logistics was a new trend those days. And I brought some really top tier WMS, say, supply chain systems, including a WMS, a final mile delivery optimization solution, and inventory optimization solution. And we have done ton of implementations with those top tier systems.
So you went out and found those? Were those solutions? Those were separate companies. And were those companies based in Turkey or elsewhere?
No, elsewhere, like United States, Canada, like Greece, like other countries.
How did you find those companies? What?
I mean, you just travel, check who is good out there. We try to bring the best of breed solutions and build an ecosystem that can support each other. That's how we ended up, right? Finding different business partners.
Got you. Fascinating. And so so tell me about that company. How long did that company run? And then what was the next thing that you did?
I think that company ended up 2015, 16. But we evolved by time because we started with those top tier systems. And at some point we realized none of these solutions is suitable for transportation management for Turkey. And because of the regulations and everything. So we developed our own transportation management system for FTL, LTL carriers. And this was 2008. So the 2008, we developed our first product within the same company. We were still doing implementation for others, but these products were not competing each other. So we developed the LTL, FTL solution for ourselves. And then it became market leader. It was really good solution. And I guess it was 2010, 2011, we developed our first WMS.
Got it. And that was in Turkey?
In Turkey, yes.
Okay. That's interesting. 2010, is that what you said? 2010,
Yes,
2011? That's the start
2010.
of eHub as well, around 2000, 2009, 2010. So we could walk the same, maybe we could walk the same path. Okay, so that was the start of Logiwa.
The product Logiwa, yes. The company name was LA.
Something else.
LA Software, yeah.
But the software basis started at that point. Okay, and so at that point you had now created a WMS. And I think that the interesting thing is you built this WMS in what time period did that take you?
The first version was in front of the customer in 3 weeks. It was not completed. Just
so you found. Tell me about that. You found a customer, or a customer came to you and said, "I need this," and you decided that you could build it. Is that how?
So the story is, we were really implementing, I call it legacy WMS systems, who has been in the market for 30 years, 40 years, very old technology, old school. And this customer was e-commerce. They were doing pure e-commerce, and they were looking for a WMS to implement for their e-commerce warehouse. And there was no e-commerce WMS that time, even not in US as far as I believe. There was, because most of the WMS systems built like 30, 40 years ago for B2B fulfillment. And this is bulk operation. E-commerce is totally different animal, the operation of e-commerce. So this guy knew me from another company because we implemented some of these top tier WMS systems for his previous company. So, and then at some point he was complaining about, he was about to sign a WMS, but he doesn't think this is the right solution, etc., etc. And I said, why do you give me like 3 weeks? Let me bring you.
Let me build something for you.
I had the idea already. I knew what I was going to do. So 3 weeks later, I showed him the first very MVP version. He liked it and he said, Erhan, like, I see this is not completed. When do you think you can complete this? I said like 4 months. And 4 months later, we were live and we still have the first printout from the packing screens.
Oh, wow.
With the guy.
That's amazing. So that's the start of your career. Well, I mean, not the start of your career, but in this particular space with the WMS.
Yes.
And did you? So you built this WMS and you started selling this or distributing this throughout Turkey?
Yes, we first started in Turkey. So it was a very successful implementation, the first one. Then, of course, other companies heard that there is an e-commerce solution. And then we implemented really large e-com companies in Turkey as well. And in 3 years, we became market leader in Turkey. We replaced most of the top tier WMS systems. And yeah, around 2015, we were market leader and very robust and stable in Turkey. The only thing is the application was on browser, but it was an on-prem solution still. So even the first version was on browsers. So we never built, let's say, old technology. But it was not working on internet because internet was not stable. So it was working on client-server architecture, but on a browser. But it was an on-prem solution.
Sure.
Means that you have to go and install each site.
Yeah, yeah. And so why didn't you just stay in Turkey? I mean, I know you ended up coming to the United States, but you were the market leader in Turkey, and it feels like things were going really well. Why did you decide to move?
Things were well, actually. We were growing, let's say, 20%, 30% year over year. But Turkish market is small, and I have a lot of dreams, right? So it was all planned. Like even 2006, 2007, if you look at my decks and presentations to my people, some of these guys are still with me. Like I was always talking, going abroad and building a world-class product. This was the entire idea. And if you stay in Turkey, you cannot build that like world-class application. At least it was going to be very difficult if I stayed in Turkey. And my dream was always create this world-class product. And 2015, I started talking IPO, like public. And I started dreaming about, hey, I'm going to have a office in a high rise in Manhattan, New York type of dream, because everyone was saying, hey, the center of technology, WMS technology is in US. But I was replacing top tier US solutions in Turkey. And I was like, why not going to the center of and the biggest market and just dominate that market? It was the entire idea, because if you are going to be a world-class WMS, you should be in United States, which is the biggest market and the center of all these top-tier systems, right? You have to compete with them.
Interesting. But you were already replacing U.S. systems in Turkey. So you had a sense that you could accomplish that in the United States.
Of course, my product was really strong, and I knew it. And the funny story is, of course, when I decided to move to US, I started talking with Turkish investors. Hey, I have a great product. I'll go there. I'll just dominate the market, penetrate the market. And the investors didn't invest in us. They said, hey, Erhan, like, with this broken English, you are Turkish, you're not going to go there. You cannot. No, this is true, by the way. You cannot go and sell in the center of technology in US as a Turkish guy. If you even convince one, the other guy is not going to like. But it was not the story, because here, especially in United States, if you have a good product, they just buy from you. They don't care if your English is good or not, where are you from. They don't really care. What they care is, can you solve their problem? Can you solve their problem better than anyone else? But even one of the investors told me, hey, Erhan, you're going to go there, stay like a couple of months, have a vacation, romantic vacation with your wife, and you'll return back. And I was like, okay, let's see it.
Wow. Well, something you mentioned just previously, I think it's a great business life lesson. If you can solve somebody's problem, then you have a really good chance of being successful. And that's what you were doing. You were solving somebody's problem. And so you decided to, even without the Turkish investors.
No investors.
You decided to make the leap to the US, but you didn't end up in New York.
So that's another story. So I checked most of the big cities and states. New York is too complicated. And after living in Istanbul, I was driving 3 hours a day average, and it was so stressful. Like I was full of stress.
Back and forth to work?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. it's very normal in Istanbul, like 2 hours, 3 hours. It depends on where you live, because in most of the days you have to pass from one continent to other through bridges, right? It's a lot of heavy traffic. So New York is too complicated. I really didn't want to live there, and it's too expensive. And without investment, nothing, I ended up Chicago.
Yeah.
And
The Windy City.
the Windy City, Chicago is more affordable. From a time zone perspective, it is in the middle of US. So West Coast, East Coast,
Sure. Yeah, that
some
works
time
well.
zone. And it's also a hub for logistic companies, very big hub. So, and there's a Turkish Airlines direct flight to Istanbul. So,
From O'Hare?
yes,
Oh,
actually
nice.
now two flights every day.
How
So,
about that?
Yeah. So we select, and I guess these are all business reasons, but the reason why I selected Chicago is more like, I like Chicago being a big city, but also small downtown, very well organized. And I remember myself, I didn't drive almost 3 years in Chicago. I didn't have a car, right? I was walking everywhere, even though it's too
Oh.
cold, too windy.
Yes, too cold, too windy, but the summers are amazing.
Summers are amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's a great city. It's a very walkable city, and you were pretty close to your office, where you lived in your office, so that worked out pretty well. Okay, so you make the leap to the United States. You land in Chicago. You have your product. What were the challenges that you faced at that time?
So we came Chicago with an accelerator program for startups. Makes sense?
Oh,
yeah.
sure.
And then when we were in Turkey, this accelerator program asked, hey, we are going to take you to Chicago, Chicago and San Francisco for 1 month or whatever. They pay the tickets, etc. But you need to book meetings before we take you there.
Oh,
And it's interesting. I spent enough time with my co-founder, and we ended up booking 30 meetings,
wow.
all in person. We didn't know a remote world that time. It was all in person. And even this accelerator program, I remember, we didn't show up in daily stand-ups because we were all customer meetings. So we realized there is a really need for an e-com, new technology WMS system, because even from Turkey, if you can book 30 meetings with US companies, that is something.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then, what was the result of those 30 meetings? I mean, you're part of this accelerated program. You book the meetings. Now you come over and you're sitting down with all of these different companies in the U.S. What was the result?
Nothing. We didn't close any of them, but we understood the business model, what we should do, because we were an on-premise customer, on-premise software for enterprise customers. We realized if we go that direction, we couldn't be successful, because we understood we have to shift to a different business model, which is SaaS, multi-tenant, and remote sales. And that is the lesson we learned. We couldn't close any of those deals.
Wow. So how long were you in the United States or in Chicago before you closed your first deal? Or had you closed your first deal prior to?
So I landed Chicago 1st of January 2016, I believe. Yeah. And the tickets were cheaper because it was 1st of January.
Yes.
Remember, we are coming without any investment.
Yes.
And I believe it took 6 months, 5.5 months for us to close the first deal. And it was a funny story, the first deal. And to be honest, we were $30 a day budget in Chicago with my wife and I. Yeah.
Oh my
We survived
goodness.
almost 1 year, closer to 1 year, $30 a day. Company was paying the rent, but I was spending all my money for sales, marketing.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was tough. I remember my wife in Jivolosko asking me, hey, Erhan, can we buy chocolate? I was like, once a week. Yes.
Once a week you could
Yeah.
have chocolate. That was the luxury.
Yeah. And from there, we shifted the model. We created a website and we put a demo request form.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we started doing paid search, like paid
Mhm,
ads,
sure.
et cetera, et cetera. And then one customer requested a demo request, the very first one, and we closed that deal.
Oh, that's great.
And it was fun because until that time, the only way for us to close a deal is go there 10 times, see their warehouse, do a lot of workshop, like in person.
Sure.
This company was interesting because we went LA to close the deal.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy asked me, why are you coming LA? And we were like, let's just come and see your warehouse. Let's see what we can do.
Mm-hmm.
The first question mark, why he's asking, like, what is there any other way to show your product? The only way for us was going in person and seeing the warehouse and analyzing, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And then we spent a couple of hours. We showed the product. He loved it. And then we returned back to Chicago one day, I think next day or maybe 2 days. When we returned Chicago, he just sent an email asking for an order form to sign. Like no negotiation, nothing.
That he was ready to go.
The interesting thing is we didn't have any order form. we were not expecting this. So we downloaded an order form from internet, changed it.
Yes.
Like we didn't have a legal team as well. So we sent it. And, we were expecting like 2 weeks negotiations. He signed it and he faxed.
My goodness.
And then we understood we have to change the business model. This new generation e-commerce warehouses, they don't have time. They don't want you to come to your warehouse, etc. Today, we go and see customers, but those days, it was a big advantage for us because we didn't have a lot of investment and money.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a good business model. So we shifted to remote sales and inbound lead generation, and it worked.
And that's the launching point. From that point, now you're starting to add customers fairly regularly. You're having some success, hiring, growing,
Yeah.
all of those things.
I think after we acquired 15th customer, 15,
Mm-hmm.
one of those Turkish investors,
Did they call you and say, hey,
yes,
hey,
they-
we have some money?
they put money because they understood, I guess, I am not returning back.
Oh,
And
that's
I'll-
great.
I'll do this thing. Then they put some money. We tripled our revenue with that money. We raised money from US investors.
Mm-hmm.
And now we are a post-B company with 8 investors, very big ones,
Mhm.
all like US based.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's a great story. It's a fascinating story. So, and that all, I mean, as you look back from where you started in a small town in Turkey and a dream of building your own company, and what would you say? Would you say I've accomplished, I've realized my dream?
no.
You haven't.
So a funny story. I was in Turkey, I guess 2 years ago.
Mhm.
One of my cousin, he's older than me, maybe 2 years, 3 years. I saw him and he was like, Erhan, do you remember you were gonna be the president of the Turkey? And you were like promoting this.
Yeah.
And I was like he goes like, do you still have plan for that? I was like, no, like politics is not for me. I just realized I am too transparent, too direct for politics. I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, politics
So-
is a dirty game.
Yeah, my dream is to ring the bell in front of New York Exchange Rate.
Oh,
This
nice.
is my dream. I'll go for it.
yeah. Why not? Well, you've reached one of your dreams. I don't know. You've taken the president of Turkey off the table. So that one's gone. So now ringing the bell at the New York Stock Exchange, that's next. Well, that's such a great story. I love getting to that point from where you started to now you're in the United States, you're successful, and you've built this world-class platform. I keep wanting to call it a WMS, and I don't want because I know you've changed that, so I'm not going to call it a WMS.
Totally fine. We also call ourselves time to time WMS because people understand WMS better.
But I like the new phrase that you use, which is
Fulfillment management system.
fulfillment management system. So it's an FMS. We'll call it an
Yes.
FMS. Okay, very good. All right. Well, let's shift gears a little bit. Now let's talk about Logiwa and what you guys do, and specifically, if I asked you, if I don't know anything about your company, or know very little about your company, as you look across all of everything you've accomplished, what is the best thing that you do in the logistics industry?
Wow, very tough question. So, I think we pioneered the high volume fulfillment, honestly. Even most of the top tier WMS systems, they still struggle with high volume. I call it high volume. I don't like 3 years ago, we were an e-commerce WMS. Now we are e-commerce first, but we do retail B2B as well. And I call all of these things high volume.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, even we are changing the definition of warehousing. Like, we don't like to call it warehouse. We like to call it fulfillment center.
Mm-hmm.
And it is changing that way because fulfillment centers are different than warehouses. Warehouses are built for storage.
Mm-hmm.
And bulk operations.
Mm-hmm.
If you are going to ship, let's say, 10,000 pencils from a B2B warehouse, it is one pallet. And in 10 minutes, a forklift driver puts it into a car. And if one pencil is $1, then you ship $10,000 of product in 10 minutes. In a fulfillment center, which is, let's say, e-commerce or hybrid, 10,000 pencils means 8,000 orders, 8,000 different customers. And you need most probably 40, 50 people to pick, pack, and ship those products. These are two different things. And I think we are helping people understand fulfillment centers are different than warehouses. And because they are different, there is a different type of solution or software needed for fulfillment centers.
So, when you think about a fulfillment center and you are a pioneer in the high volume, what are the things that you do really well? Like when you're talking to a customer or when a customer is doing some research, what are the things that you do really well in those scenarios?
So let's approach this from different angles.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, you go to a fulfillment center and you just see a picker and ask, how long have you been in this fulfillment center? Most probably he or she is going to say you like 6 months or 1 year.
Sure.
This is Gen Z, and like somehow the turnover rate is too high.
Mm-hmm.
And in most of the cases, I don't blame them because most of these fulfillment centers or warehouses are using software that is older than the picker himself or herself.
Mm-hmm.
So, and assume that these pickers are spending 8 hours looking at device,
Sure.
software, which is a very old technology, and they're not happy. Because especially Gen Z, you cannot make them happy with just salary or money. They need different accomplishments, different satisfaction ratios, such as a good UX, right?
Mm-hmm.
It has to be a UX that they are used to, such as something similar to Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever. A nice UX. Otherwise, they don't really enjoy what they are doing because they are 8 hours, they are looking at a gray screen or a very old school screen.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like it. This is one thing that really differs in fulfillment centers. We are providing a really nice UX that is similar to social media apps so that the pickers enjoy.
That's amazing.
Even just to give you a benchmark, our previous WMS, like we have two versions, like the legacy one and the new IO version. The previous WMS NPS, Net Promoter Score, was always negative. Yeah, because no one likes a WMS. None of the pickers, none of the packers like a WMS because, again, they think they know better than the WMS. Hey, why the WMS is sending me to that location?
Yeah.
So they don't like it. But with the IO, we are seeing 70 positive NPS.
Wow.
Yeah, this is just about the UX. So the UX is totally different for fulfillment centers because the profiles are different.
Oh, I really like this. I want to keep asking you some questions about this. I think that's so fascinating. One thing is that when you started, you were replacing legacy systems, and now you have a legacy system.
That's
your
the
new
truth.
system, in your new platform.
Yes, it is changing so fast. Even our system is a legacy system now.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so I really like. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, one more thing. For high volume, one of the fulfillment centers, especially, one of the big concern is the packers walk 7 miles, 10 miles a day.
Mm-hmm.
And they walk across the fulfillment center from one aisle to the other. And usually this is not a optimized walking path or optimized order batching. So with the new IO, we put AI in place. So now all the picking and packing tasks are created by AI, and we are seeing huge productivity improvement. This is a big shift in the industry.
So is that then taking? Well, let's just say, does it take, to simplify, all of the daily orders, and then at that point, does AI determine the most efficient way to go and grab all those orders, and then that flows down to the pickers?
It pulls all the orders, all the totes, all the cards, all the employee profiles, everything, and without any manual interaction, it creates all the picking tasks, jobs, packing tasks, walking path optimization, everything for pickers and packers, which they like, actually.
I'm sure. But you don't get all your steps in during the day. You get fewer steps during the day.
Yes, fewer steps. Because that's where the productivity comes from. If a picker is not walking 7 miles but 4 miles, this is 30% productivity.
What do the analytics say about that? How do people respond to that? Are the people who are actually now going out on the floor and walking 4 miles instead of 7 miles, are they telling you that their lives are improved because of that?
You missed that point, 70% NPS.
I wanted you to say it again. Was giving you the opportunity to restate that.
So they really like it because even our legacy system is rule-based job creation. So someone creates rules, if then else statements. And usually the pickers walk from one aisle to other, one side from the other side. This is really optimized, and we are just keeping them closer to the locations. So they just make less steps.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I really like this idea of the user interface relating to the demographic who's using that interface. And so how did you discover that? Where did you come up with that? And you and I were just talking about this, how important culture is in a company. And that has to be enormous for culture if the people who are utilizing the interface and out on the floor now feel more fulfilled because of the platform that they're using.
This is so important. I have been always questioning why we have negative NPS. By the way, average NPS for a WMS is negative, right? Because most of them are old school, now our legacy as well, honestly, because when we designed legacy, it was 10, 12 years, 14 years ago. We didn't use UX designers. These full stack developers. Yeah. But then I questioned a lot. Why? What is wrong? I mean, this is a good solution, but why the users doesn't like it? Maybe the UX is not streamlined. So before developing Logiwa IO, the first people I hired was UX designers. So I invested in UX designers, and also my guys are very experienced. So we have a storyline, and we try to change all the cumbersome workflows, try to streamline them, and even try to give them opportunities for self-service. Like the customers can do most of the things themselves. They really like this as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we give them option as well. But the UX of new IO is, we invested in a lot, but it's paying off.
That's amazing. I love that story. Okay, let me ask you a couple questions about actual interactions with customers. And I mean, it's probably not a fit for all customers, but so maybe that's the question is, are you trying to be everything for all customers, or do you have a specific type of customer where the solution works really well?
So we are not trying to be a solution for everyone. We are a solution for high volume fulfillment. Usually, if as a customer, you are like at least 60% e-com and 40% B2B, this is a good profile for us. But if you are 100% e-com, this is the sweet spot. I mean, really good.
Yeah.
Like we can do a lot of optimization because the optimization lies on the numbers. If you ship 100,000 orders a day, my optimization can save you 60% productivity optimization. If you are shipping 1,000 orders a day, then most probably 8%. Because when the volume increases, the complexity increases as well. And human brain or manual algorithms cannot solve this problem. So this is where we are strong at, right?
Yeah.
High volume. Other than that, we don't really care which industry, because especially for e-com, at the end of the day, you download orders, food, fashion, electronics, doesn't really matter. You download orders, you pick them. Yes, lot batch number, expiration date, that's okay. But you pick them, you put them into boxes, print a shipping label, and send a box. At the end of the day, all the fulfillment centers are shipping a box as an e-commerce. So there's no really industry specification there. Like anything, e-commerce is the same solution for us. But for B2B, it changes, and we cover most of the B2B cases as well.
In which way? How do you cover the B2B and the e-commerce cases? Same platform, same solution?
Yeah, same platform, same solution. Even you can pick B2B orders and e-com orders from the same location. It's not very optimal, but it's very possible.
But it works.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let me go back to your first customer in the United States, which is a great story. The guy in LA. Okay, if that was the easiest order form you ever got signed, tell me about a circumstance with a customer that was really difficult, and how did you overcome those obstacles?
So I will not give the name of the customer, but this is Fortune 50, I guess. Yeah, customer. And we were small that time. Like we are way bigger now, but like that time we were small. And they sent us an agreement, 90 pages, 90, for a SaaS, to subscribe a SaaS solution.
90 pages. Did you have a legal department at this point?
No legal department. I couldn't afford for a And I told these guys, hey guys, I mean, we don't have time for 90 pages. You're not buying the company. You're just going to subscribe a subscription services. We have to make this simple. So then they agreed, and we signed a very simple agreement.
But 90 pages. I don't think I've ever seen a 90-page agreement.
I was not going to close that deal with 90.
No.
It's a big name, big logo, but I mean...
Are they still a customer?
Yes.
Wow. That's amazing. Do you ever tell them how funny it was that they sent you a 90-page agreement?
I told them right away when they send it. I'm telling you, I'm very direct and transparent. I mean, I don't really
you don't mess
play
maybe
politics.
Maybe you should be in politics. We could use a little more of that, direct and transparent.
So.
It's a tough game. It certainly is a tough game. Okay, what is your if that was the most difficult, and maybe it wasn't that difficult, you just told them you couldn't sign a 90-page document. Do you have a favorite story about a customer or an implementation?
Let me tell you couple. I don't know which one you like, but there has been a recent deal we closed, very large 3PL, maybe 40 warehouses, 40, very large. And we closed this in 3 weeks. From first touch to
First contact to...
yes,
wow.
it's a large deal. I'm not going to say the number,
No,
but
you're-
very
you
large
don't.
deal. And we were competing with tier one, big, very big WMS systems.
Mhm.
And it was crazy fast because the customer knows what he's looking for, and they are former Amazon guys, so they really knew what they are looking for. And we were doing almost a call every day, if not 2 calls, like product demos, technical sessions, professional services, legal statements, whatever. And then we closed in 3 weeks, very large deal. Like, this just itself shows how strong our product is, because those type of deals, if you don't have a strong product plus strong professional services, like strong people, you cannot close this type of deals. It was really eye-opening for us to understand where we are and where we sit, because now I think it's time for us to even go upper segment.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of stories, but these are some of the ones that we really moved fast.
I think the interesting thing about the company you spoke about previously, where you closed in 3 weeks from start to finish, is how nimble. I mean, the product is the product, and you've built a great product, so that stands on its own. But it sounds like what you accomplished on the other side with your team, having multiple calls or demos or whatever it took per day to get that done, and being very responsive to the customer. And I look at our business at eHub, and that would be really difficult to do. If we could probably get all the resources together that we needed if that occurred, but being nimble like that is really difficult. And that seems like something culturally that you've built along with your product.
Product plus the team as well. We are a very responsive company. If you ask our culture, we call it ART, A-R-T. A stands for accountability. R stands for responsiveness, and T stands for togetherness. But the one thing is, we are very responsive. Customers, each other. For example, as a CEO, I still check my phone and text until 12 p.m. until I sleep, 11 p.m. whatever. If someone is texting me, get a response right away. This is the culture, and it's a reflection of this culture. Like, even the customer, you want a demo tomorrow? Yes, we have available people. Let's do it. And another one? Yes, let's do another one. Why would I wait and make it a political game? Again, we are very direct and transparent.
That's a great story. In fact, I want to leave at that story for just 1 second, and then we're going to come back to it. But I have 3. Remember, I told you I was going to ask you 3 random questions. Are you ready for this? This could be the most difficult part of the podcast.
Scary.
Yes, very, very. Speaking of scary, did you celebrate Halloween in Turkey?
No.
That's not just a United States, U.S. thing, right? I mean, don't they celebrate Halloween in Great Britain? Anybody? Does anybody in the room know the answer to this? I'm getting nothing over here. Nobody knows. But you didn't celebrate Halloween. Okay. What is the favorite holiday in Turkey?
The favorite holiday. We have religious holidays. I think one of them is 4 days.
4 days long, or is it
Yes.
called 4 days?
4 days long. So usually when it starts and it is weekdays, entire week, like from Friday to next Monday, it's vacation, 10 days, whatever.
Oh.
That's so good.
What are you celebrating? Is there something?
It's religious. I really don't know what is the where it originated, but it's religious, something religious.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Okay. How long have you been in the U.S. now? 8 years?
8 years, I guess.
Okay.
A little bit more, yeah.
Do you prefer U.S. food or food from Turkey?
It's not comparable, man.
McDonald's?
Of course,
Is it?
Turkey.
Oh,
It's not comparable.
what is your favorite thing in Turkey? What's your favorite dish in Turkey?
There are multiple. One is called pide. It looks like pizza, but longer. Let's call it flatbread, but it's different style. My hometown is very famous with pide. We call it pide. It's like pita, but we use an E there instead of A, so pide. The other one is döner. I'm not going to say the Greek name, but it's döner. Greeks call it different, but döner is originated from Turkey as far as I know, and I really like it.
I think that we have some. Is it Doner?
Yes.
Doner? Oh, we have something like that in Salt Lake.
You should.
At a restaurant called Spitz. They have the doner bowl and a doner wrap and all of these things.
Yeah, that is.
Okay, well, it's very good. I could see.
It is really good.
I could see why you like that. Okay, who's going to win the World Series? The Yankees or the Dodgers?
I know nothing about football.
What?
Yes.
Well, I just asked you about baseball, so
Even I'm telling you,
that's even better.
for a baseball team, I only know Chicago Cubs. That's it.
Well, you unintentionally gave the perfect answer to that question. All right, let's get back to business here. I love what you talked about previously about culture and art and how you're, the product and your people in the company. What are some of those other? I mean, so culturally, you come from a significantly different area in the world. Now you're in the United States, and I'd like to talk about that, the cultural differences, and what are the things that you did really well in Turkey that you've been able to incorporate here, and what are the things that you've learned here in the United States that you have incorporated into your business?
It is, to be honest, most of our cultural values are like applicable everywhere, such as accountability. By the way, I think Turkey is a little bit more responsive. And the reason for that is different because when I decided to expand my business global, like 15, 16 years ago, I hired new grads. And I trained them myself. And I just inject the culture, responsiveness, accountability, togetherness, help each other right from the beginning. These guys are now managers, leaders in the company, directors. So they are very responsive. I mean, even, I don't like this, but even 2 a.m. you text them, they will just respond to you, which is not very good. But if there is a problem with a customer or there's a stopper, they cannot sleep. So it's different. And also they save each other. In Turkey, it's very difficult to give personal KPIs or personal OKRs or personal objectives. Even though you give, they just really save each other.
Oh.
But in
more of a teamwork culture?
Yes, it is more teamwork. Let's do it together. It is good and bad, by the way. In US, it's more personal. Like I am an individual. I have my own KPIs. Of course, there are department KPIs. But I will tell you a story about Turkey and the culture. Maybe you remember years ago there has been a big earthquake in Turkey and thousands of people died. And Turkey, we are remote, hybrid. So even some of our employees were in the earthquake zone, right? And those people lost their houses, family members, etc., etc. And as a company, of course, we helped them. But at some point, it was maybe 10 days after the earthquake, and I was checking the reports, and I saw that these guys are really completing their tasks. And I was mad. And I returned back and I said, hey, why are you letting these guys work? I mean, they shouldn't be working. They should be helping their family, whatever. And my country manager said, hey, no, they are not. Other people, they're friends. their colleagues are completing their tasks. This is the culture there. I mean, which I'm so proud because,
Sure.
as I said, I hired new grad, and maybe most of my managers, directors, Logiwa has been the only company for them that they have been working.
Yeah.
But in US, what I like is more like individual contribution and individual culture. Again, both have advantages and disadvantages.
Sure. You know, I really like the team aspect. That feels like where I work the best, in a team sort of atmosphere. In the United States, especially with the sports athletics culture, you're always looking for the superstar on the team. I mean, the Michael Jordan, you know, that the guy that is going to he gets all the stats and he gets all the notoriety and he gets all the big checks. And I think that is part of the US culture, is to have a star, you know, and a high performer. But I think you have to figure out, it seems like you have how to use both of those things, you know, star performers along with this team aspect, because you just have to have that support to get all of the stuff done. And that's a terrific story about your hometown and about accomplishing those goals.
100%, we are trying to build that common culture.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, accountability, responsiveness, and togetherness is a common culture. I am trying to bring US employees to Turkey every year, a group of them.
Oh.
So we go there, we just spend a couple of days together
Mm-hmm.
to build the culture. And the impression is unbelievable. The first time they go to Turkey and they understand the culture and people, they are like, wow. It's different.
Sure.
They will just meet you at the airport. They will drive you.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different culture.
Yeah, they don't say go call Uber.
At least in my company, they don't.
How do your U.S. employees, when they visit Turkey, how do they manage the loss of personal space, like you and I were talking about? Because in Turkey, you don't have that same issue of invading personal space, but in the U.S., we kind of like to have a little bit of elbow room.
We never let them walk alone, so we are like a shield.
Well, I've really enjoyed talking with you. I have learned so much, and you're not going to believe this. We're almost an hour and a half in. I know. See, the time just flies, and I want to keep talking to you, but I'm going to let you go. I know you have to get. I know you have to get somewhere. But let us leave with this. Give me some. Is there a business philosophy? Is there a quote? Is there a book? Is there something that you have leaned on throughout your business career that you can pass along to people who are listening?
I couldn't remember but culture eats strategy for breakfast
lunch.
or for lunch.
That's right.
I don't remember there was a futurist. I don't remember, but that is true. Culture is everything, especially when you are scaling a business or startup. There will be bad days, good days, like bumps.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing you need is the culture. If your people are loyal and if you build that culture, you're going to be always be successful. That's what I believe. And the other one is transparency. Transparency is so important. Of course, you cannot give all the data or tell everything to your employees or to your company. But after each board meeting, I use the same deck and I present to my company in a town hall.
Yeah.
Because they deserve knowing the strategy, vision, where we are going, where we are at. They deserve that. Of course, we may be like hiding one or two slides, but basically it's the same slide structure, same mentality. We just present them.
Yeah, which also just builds the culture
Yes.
of the company. Well, listen, I'm inspired. This has been a fantastic conversation. I'm so glad that we get the opportunity to work together as companies and now as friends, and hopefully we'll continue this relationship. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Likewise. This is great, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
I really enjoyed.
Thank you for listening to the Know Your Ship podcast presented by eHub. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review.